Welcome to the Sons of Mjolnir podcast.
The Sons of... what?
This isn't your Sons of Macaroni, yeah!
The Sons of Mjolnir?
This is the Sons of Mjolnir, yeah!
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Sons of Mjolnir. As always, I am one of your hosts, Fat Thor, and today I am joined by good friend of the show and Marvel artist Martín Cóccolo. Martin, thank you so much for coming back on. How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure to have you, my friend. And we have a lot to talk about. I'm sure anyone tuning into this, video kind of already assumes what we're going to be talking about today. But before we start on that, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure having you on Immortal Thor, my friend, and it has been so absolutely fantastic discovering your work and just loving everything that you're doing. So I want to say, first of all, thank you for gracing us with your incredible work on Immortal Thor. But
it's an honor for me.
It's an honor for us, my friend, but let's address the Mjolnir in the room, if it were. Yeah. So you are obviously, the big news broke probably a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so ago, that you are now off of Immortal Thor. But with that, you are going on to a new title, which we will get all into the nitty gritty of that. But before we get to that, I just want to throw it off to you real quick and ask, so what happened with Immortal Thor? I know everyone's talking about it. Everyone's been asking you. So I want to hear, I want to give you the opportunity to, tell the fans, tell everybody what happened and, the whole story behind
that. I've talked about it many times, and it's true. I mean, there's nothing, how to say it, nothing nefarious behind it. There's nothing wrong. I was perfectly happy working on Immortal Thor. I would have done it for, I don't know, years maybe. I know this might break some hearts, but at some point I was approached. I won't say names because I don't know if it's right to do so, but I was approached by some higher up people at Marvel, and they said, "Hey, we're planning this relaunch for Wolverine and this whole from the ashes, like the whole relaunch for the X brand and the X family of comics." And we would love to have you do the Wolverine relaunch. You will have to quit Immortal Thor like almost immediately, basically. But we are like super excited to ask if you would like to do it. So, I mean, it wasn't easy. It's like. It took some time for me to I gave like a lot of thought about it. I talked with my wife about it, and it's not easy. You don't just leave and leave one day, and it was hard. It was a really hard decision. I had to put some things like in you weigh stuff. And just I decided that it was like it was a really important opportunity, when you have people like really trusting your work and they really want to give you a chance to take a very important project, and you realize that I mean it's kind of jarring. The change is like almost overnight. I had to take the decision, and it wasn't easy, but I was like, I mean, like the X-Men were one of the all time influences for me. You know, I watch the and read X-Men when I was a kid, and it's one of the things you dream about when you want to draw comics. You know, it's like drawing Batman. As at some point of your career, you want to draw Batman. You want to draw the X-Men in Marvel. You know, it's like that. Some people would absolutely love to draw, I don't know, Superman. I'm not interested. I've never been. I will do it if I was asked, that I was given that opportunity, but it's not something that interests me a lot. And if you go back to pretty much every interview I've done or AMA, if they asked me about which character would you like to draw at some point of your career, I would always say Logan. I would always say Wolverine is like, he's the coolest. You know, it's I would love at some point I would love to draw, you know, stories with Wolverine and Gambit and stuff like that. You know, I was a huge fan from an early age. So when they decided to give me this opportunity, I was like, okay, should I continue drawing Immortal Thor, which is great, which is I love it. Like I absolutely loved every minute of it, and I really, really mean it. And I would have continued doing so for many months or years, but they decided to ask me that just I was just completing the 7th issue, and I said like, would you do it? And I was like, okay. I read the script, and you know, it's like it felt right. It felt it wasn't completely right. I mean, it would have been like 100% right if I had like completed my run on Immortal Thor or something like that. Or it was the title was canceled or whatever. So it wasn't completely right, but it was right.
Creatively, it was right.
Yeah. In terms of your career, in terms of I don't know, I post something about Wolverine, and it gets like 3 times more likes than Immortal Thor, or you know, there's and when the news broke, I had like thousands of likes on my post about it, which has never happened to me. I'm not a massive, I'm still not a massive artist. So sometimes you have to take these decisions, you know, sometimes like, I mean, you get bigger and bigger audience, you know, until you get to draw like a main X-Men title, and it's like, you know, like the top of the mountain in when it comes to Marvel, for example. So drawing Wolverine, it's like it's getting closer to that. So it's a tough decision that sometimes you need to make, because if you don't take it now, it might take years to come back, you know. So sometimes there are some trains that if you don't take them like right now, you don't really know when they're coming back, you know what I mean?
I could only imagine how hard of a decision that is. A tough decision, but also a great position to find yourself in. I mean, you literally had the pick of 2 of like Marvel's most iconic characters. And like you said, you know, obviously I'm a Thor guy, and you know, I love Thor, but I 100% agree with you, my friend. I mean, Wolverine's Wolverine, right? It's like X-Men have always been the Teflon of Marvel. And we've talked at length before about your love of the X-Men, getting started off, you know, reading X-Men comics. And so when I heard that this was happening, I just was so happy for you and so excited for you. And while it does,
from like the first minute, you were like super supportive, so I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Of course. Like I said before, I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of you and your work. So while it saddens me that we don't have you on Immortal Thor anymore, I'm just excited for this new adventure and to experience all the new great art that you're going to do. And I urge everybody else to do the same because Martin is just an amazing artist. And even though it's not on Immortal Thor, the work is still just as good. And I've seen some preview pages for Wolverine. And again, I'm the Thor guy, but I will say I think it's some of your best work to date. So I cannot be more excited.
I mean, Immortal Thor was absolutely amazing for me. Like all the things that I got to explore, and I feel like I haven't done enough with the title and the universe. You know, I would love to at some point to go back and do like 10 more issues or whatever. I would really. I would really love to do so. I'm like I kept telling to some friends, if I was someone like Dan Mora, you know, like he can do like I don't know, like 3 issues a month or whatever. He's like insane. His production is absolutely insane, but I can't.
Yeah.
I don't have my work is like very very complex and has many layers and many it takes a lot of work for me to do. So I literally I can't I will have to clone myself to work on both projects.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean like these are like very different stories and you have to have like a very different approach to those stories, you know, because I went from doing this amazing like epic stuff, like the scale of everything was like huge, and there was like magic and power and transformations and characters, you know, like it was insane, and it was awesome because I had the opportunity to draw so many cool stuff. It was like cool stuff after cool stuff, like a cool page after cool page after cool page. It was fantastic. So I love that. And now when I moved to this new project that I can't really talk very much about it, but you've seen from the preview pages, it's much more like subdued and more down to earth. There are of course this is Marvel, so there are fantastic elements and magic elements and stuff like that, but it's much more down to earth. So you have to look in your toolbox and see what you can come up with, because it isn't as flashy as something like Thor. Like I mean, it's so everything is so over the top, magical and epic that it's easier in some way. It takes a lot of work, but the scope is so huge that it's easier to just go over the top and do amazing stuff. But what do you do when you are like deprived from that epicity? I don't know how to call it, that epicness. How do you tell a much more down to earth and subdued and you know and regular story and make it as powerful and you know and amazing as possible? So you have to explore different avenues and different resources, artistic resources. So it's incredibly interesting. I don't know, I won't say right now if it is better or worse. It's just different, and it's just another exploration of my art, and it's a hell of a ride. I mean, it's amazing. I still hold Immortal Thor as my best work of some of my best work for sure. Like top 3 for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked at length of a bunch of your Immortal Thor pages and how incredible that artwork is. And so, I mean, you kind of already answered this, but again, know you're obviously super busy with Wolverine. Again, we just kind
Yeah,
of touched on this a little bit. But if there were, so you're saying if there were an opportunity to,
yeah,
jump back in on an issue
yeah,
or,
absolutely.
something like that, that's totally in the cards.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
if
Ow,
I had the
ow, you
time,
hear me, buddy?
if I had the time, or if they, if they allowed me to have like a month off from one project to work on this or whatever,
Mhm.
if the stars aligned, I mean, it was never me, the one who didn't want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
continue,
And
you
like you
know?
said, if you could, you would. If you
Yeah,
could do
absolutely.
both titles, you
If I
absolutely would
could,
be doing
if I
both.
could pull off like 2 issues a month, which is
Hmm.
insane for me, it's like it's impossible.
Yeah.
But if I could, I would absolutely continue doing both, because it was awesome, like awesome, and I had, and it's easy, and it's tough too, because when you work for a long time on a project, it becomes so organic, you start thinking on of the characters and situations, and it's always on your mind, it's always developing, and the relationship you have with your editors and the writer and whatever, it becomes more and more and more organic, as time moves on. So I was so comfortable, so so used to Al, to the editors, to the world, to the aesthetic, like everything was like super, familiar and natural for me. So just leaving that and jumping to another project is like a whole new,
You're
you
flipping your
know
world upside down pretty
yeah,
much. You're in
exactly, yeah,
Asgard mode, and now all of a sudden you're
yeah,
in the
exactly,
Canadian wilderness. Like, what the
yeah.
hell's going on?
Yeah, so yeah, it's tough, it's tough,
Hmm.
but if if you pride yourself, as a professional, you should be able to do those jumps,
Hmm.
you should be able to do a decent work, decent or better than decent, but at least decent, on whatever project you are on. So yeah, it's like, tough shit if you
Yeah.
can't
And like I said, you
adapt.
cannot pass that opportunity up. I
No,
mean, and
no, no.
especially too, I mean, we are in like a resurgence of X-Men
Yeah,
right now. I mean,
that,
Deadpool and Wolverine comes out tomorrow. At the time we're recording this,
yeah,
that comes out tomorrow. So Wolverine is like everywhere right now. And
yeah,
on top
exactly.
of that as well, it's his 50th anniversary coming up.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that whole thing was basically the pitch, for me.
mhm,
They said, I mean, this is gonna be like a very big year, for Wolverine. It's the movies coming, the whole relaunch. It's like super. It's like big,
yeah,
so it's like, yeah, I mean,
huge.
I have to take this, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And before we get more into Wolverine, because I got a couple, again, we can't talk any spoilers, which we would never do that on here on the Sons of Mjolnir, but we do have to talk a little bit more about it. But before
Yeah.
we get to that, I do want to ask you, so we went through Immortal Thor, now that the journey is over and you're on to brighter pastures, I got to ask, I mean, I have my favorites, and we've talked about some of my favorites before, but I got to ask, what are some of your favorite pages that you did, for like ones that stick out to you in your brain if you think about it? And also,
Um,
I wanted to ask, what were maybe something that you learned, or maybe not learned is the right word, but a skill maybe that you had like developed a little bit more while working on Immortal Thor that you are now going to take with you into Wolverine?
that's I don't know if it's going into Wolverine, because it's kind of different,
Hmm.
but one of the big challenges for me was handling the huge, like the um how do you how do you make a character like Toranos
Hmm.
interact with regular people? and that's like super hard to do, like
Yeah,
super hard,
we talked
because
about that on our last episode because again, that's why I asked you that, because the sense
yeah,
of scale is just absolutely
yeah, exactly.
insane.
Handling the scale is insane. Like
Mhm.
like every interaction that when you see it like on the written page, doesn't sound like too difficult to do,
Mhm.
but when you have to translate that to a drawing, that becomes like immense. That's insanely hard to do. There,
Mhm.
there were some moments where I was like pulling my hairs and saying like, how the fuck am I going to do this? Like,
Yeah.
how does it work? How do we, you know? So those were some of the bigger challenges for me on Immortal Thor, was
Mhm.
handling the whole Torano stuff. When it comes to, if he's alone, there's nothing wrong there, and if the characters like the regular sized characters are alone, there's no problem there either. But when they come together and you have to make them interact and attack each other, that becomes like really difficult thing to do,
Mhm.
so those were like some of my bigger challenges there. And to answer your question, I've been like revisiting my pages lately, and still the introduction of Toranos, I think it's like takes the cake. I mean,
Yes, the
I'm like
wheel
super
turns.
proud, like super proud of how from the moment that the Statue of Liberty, like gets a lightning bolt and gets destroyed. From that moment on, I think it's like I would love to see that on a movie. It's like very cinematic,
Mhm.
very, it looks like still frames from a movie. So yeah, I would love to do I mean, I'm very proud of that sequence. And also how Al presented, right? He
Mhm.
took his time. He built this whole tension, and then he hits you with like three double page spreads,
Mhm.
one after one after one. So it's epic. Like the scope, the scale, it's insane. And I'm really, I mean, there are many pages um, in my run that I really love.
Mhm.
But as a sequence, I think that
That's the
one's
one.
that one. Like, yeah.
Dude, that one
It
is
was
so good. And
it
I
was
was gonna
really
say I gotta agree. Anything with Toronto's is absolutely
yeah.
my favorite. I mean, you just did such a great job on that. And again, we talked last time about the sense of scale, because that's one of the things that I thought was just so impressive with your work, especially when you're changing camera angles. So
Yeah.
I just thinking off the top of my head, I remember the one page with Storm and Thor standing in front of him, and they're like
Yeah.
little ants.
Yeah.
Change the perspective, right? When like the Thor corpse comes in and you have like, Jane Foster Thor flying around here, you got Beta Ray Bill here, but like you never once lose that sense of scale. Like which I could
Yeah.
only imagine how hard that
It,
would
for,
be.
for,
Like again,
for,
changing the perspective of it.
yeah, for example, when they throw the Mjolnir to Toranos, I
Yeah, through
mean,
his fingers.
Mjolnir is like a speck of dust
Yeah.
from from Toranos perspective, right? So it was like, how do I show that?
Mhm.
Because I need to have Mjolnir flying towards Toranos, but how do I show that? Because if I show it in more detail, if I show Mjolnir in more detail, I lose Toranos, because Toranos would be like a smudge, like a black spot on the background, So how do I do that? So you have to always, and I imagine, okay, maybe it shines, maybe it shines like a star, like a falling star, but going up to Toronto. And I was like, okay, that's cool, that works. So it's always like that. So you're always trying to there are always problems arriving to how you portray stuff, and you have to solve those problems. Like drawing is like 90 drawing comics. If you want to do it, if you want to give it like your best, and try to make them as clear and concise, they have to. Comic pages should be understood. I think that they should be understood without the word balloons. You should. There's never that easy, because there is information in the text that is impossible to convey. There are parts of crucial information that can only come in text. But if you see like fights or stuff like that, like action, you should be able to understand stuff without having to actually read what's going on. If you need to use text like crutches, because you are not able to fully convey what's going on, and to keep the reader's attention and make it clear, especially when you change like shots and do like reverse angles and all that stuff. People can get easily lost if you're not doing it right. So if you want to really give it your best and make it as clear as possible, it's a lot of thought. There's a lot of thought put into pretty much every panel to make it as clear as possible for the reader. You don't want people like getting lost in the action. You don't want that. If that happened, like you failed basically. So yeah, it's hard in that regard. It's really hard. It's the hardest part, because it's the foundation basically. If you lay the foundation and the foundation is right, then you can dress it up as nice as you can, and make it as pretty or as awesome as you can. But you have to lay a solid foundation first, and that's the hard part basically.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah.
we've talked too about how you never cut corners, and
It's my curse basically.
Yeah.
If I'm sending a page and I see that there is a panel or a face or something that looks like subpar, no, I can't, man. I can't. If I have to, I'm like super tired, and changing this will take like 6 more fucking hours. I will do it.
Yeah.
I can't.
And it shows.
I can't.
And like I said,
can't.
I'm sure that there's a lot of artists out there that would be like, oh, like it'll get fixed in coloring, or like you won't even notice that. But
I'm cursed with
Yeah.
that. I've been that, and that's why and that's why you have to over time. I've been giving it more and more thought to storytelling, way more than how pages look, how your style looks or whatever. Like, I really want to make a page that it's clearly readable and it's exciting, because first of all, you should understand it, and then you should enjoy it. Then you should be like surprised and moved, and the action should take you places. I mean, you shouldn't be like an action that it's flat, that it's readable, but it's super flat and uninteresting. So you have to make it readable, and you have to make it exciting, and you have to make it look good. So that's basically it.
Gotta tick all the boxes.
that's like the triangle of a successful comic page. It's like make it readable, make it exciting, and make it look cool and beautiful and awesome, or whatever adjective you want to use.
Mhm.
So yeah,
That's how you be a
and
comic artist, folks.
yeah, and if you slack on some of those parts, I would rather see a page that in terms of importance, it should be the foundation, then the excitement, and then the looks of the page. um I'd rather see a page that is not like super complex looking, like super beautiful, but it works and it keeps you like on your toes, and it keeps you like super entertained, and you want to turn your page and see what comes next. That's much better than how it looks. Some people will go directly to doing an awesome like a cool looking page, but it sucks as a reading material. It sucks as a comic page. So, and sometimes I've been like focused on that, and then I realized at the end of my workday, I realized that it isn't reading as nice as it should, you know. So that's when you say, "Oh man, I had to redo this, and it's gonna take forever for me to do it." So I've made so many mistakes over the years that over time you learn that the most efficient way of working without being so depressed and bogged down and frustrated, it's like do it right in the beginning of the page, do that part right, and the rest will come along just nice and easy, not easy but easier.
Yeah. And I
So
love the way you talk about that too, because I think all of us out there who are, big comic readers have definitely seen pages that are beautiful, like on face value, but just like do not fit within
yeah,
like the flow of the story, right? Lastly, on Immortal Thor, before we get to Wolverine, I mean, like you said, you got to draw some pretty awesome stuff in there. I mean, you got to draw all the cool shit in 7 issues. I mean, the Immortal Thor corpse.
basically.
We got let's see, you did Jormungandr, all the Utgard gods,
Yeah.
Gaia, Utgard Loki, and your last issue number 7, was an absolute fantastic issue of like a
Thank you.
classic Thor and Loki's kind of
Yeah.
story with them together in the Utgard Hall. And I mean, I really can't think of a better issue for you to end off on. Like I said, in
Yeah.
that issue alone, we got Jormungandr, Utgard Loki, and like I said, classic Thor and Loki, some classic Norse adventures. So I mean, what a way to go out on the title, my friend. You got to touch so much of the Thor universe.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and yeah, they said when I was going through it, when I got the proposal for Wolverine, and they said, like, I mean, at least this is like a perfect send off. Like this issue 7 was like a perfect send off for you.
Yeah.
So at least we got that part right. So yeah, every issue was fantastic. Like, but it's also, of course, it's due to Al's incredible writing. Like, every page is a surprise. Every page is taking you to many different places and visiting. It kept. It was always interesting, like always exciting, always new stuff to draw. It was never like he's able. That's basically the mark of a great writer, because on it's we're talking 20 pages. 20 pages is nothing. It's like in terms of volume, it's nothing. You could take 20 pages to to tell like a very minimal story on a room,
Mhm.
and you will be like done, like you start and you're done. It's like there are very few pages to develop a full story of characters that go many places and encounter many um, characters and creatures and stuff, and Al does it. Al is able to pull off like so, and it doesn't feel rushed, which is also incredible. Like everything that happens on an issue um, is complex. It's super like varied. Like there are many things going on.
Mhm.
It never lags. It never stays on and on one place and just drags. No, it's like super. It's always moving fast, but everything has its time. Everything has its place, and it makes sense in the story.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic writer, like an incredible writer. So with a fantastic writer and a fantastic universe, I mean, you get to play with so many toys and stuff. It's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
we don't call him the Owl Father for no reason, right? That's
Yeah.
he's we love Al over here. I mean, all of his titles. I mean, we obviously Immortal Thor, but I've also been absolutely loving Venom as well. He's doing fantastic on there. And if you're out there listening or watching this, we love you, buddy. You're doing a
Yeah.
fantastic job. But now, so I think we've gone through Immortal Thor now, and again, I mean, it's just been such a pleasure to have you on the title at all. But again, we talked about it plenty of times through this interview, but let's get into it officially. Wolverine, my dude, that
Yeah.
is absolutely fantastic. And it's so funny because before all of this became announced, I was saying, I was like, man, we need Martin on one of these X titles. I was like, because the
Yeah.
news came out and like all these, titles are getting announced. And I was like, man, it would be so great to get Martin on one of, like, I don't know
Yeah.
what title, but one of them. I need him on one of these titles. And sure enough, like it was like a day later, it was like
Yeah.
Martin
Exactly.
Cóccolo on Wolverine. I was like, no,
Yeah.
no shit.
You shoot me a message, and it was like, oh man, yeah, just wait. Just wait.
Yeah,
I can't talk about it, but just wait. And it was like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 days after that.
yeah, it was like
uh
immediately. I was like, no, wait,
yeah, it was
I was like, did I
immediately.
just get
And you
Martin a
were like,
job, dude? Like,
yeah. Yeah, that was awesome, man. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so now you're on Wolverine, and we just talked about how big of a fan of a character of the character you are. It's going to be his 50-year anniversary, and on top of all of that, this is kind of a new resurgence for the character, not just the character, but for the X-Men in general. For those of
Yeah.
out there who don't know or maybe have not been following along, Krakoa has come to an end, and now we move forward with our mutants in various different places. We have a fantastic X-Men main title from Jed MacKay. The guys Jackson Lancet and Colin Kelly are over on NYX, which has the mutants on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And then we have Wolverine. And on this title, so the previews on this say that Wolverine begins deep in the Canadian wilderness, where Wolverine reunites with his wolf pack and embraces the beast within. Like, oh my lord, that just sounds absolutely fantastic. And we do get this kind of setup in Jed MacKay's first X-Men issue. So if y'all haven't read that, go out there, check that out. That will kind of set you up for this Wolverine run. But Martin, for your side of things, I know we cannot talk about story. We can't talk about really anything except that it is Wolverine. But
Yeah.
you, when this was announced on the article for the previews, you were quoted by saying, I could talk for hours about why I decided to take this relaunch, but my real answer, it's Wolverine. That's it.
Yeah.
And you also said that this is a dream come true. So, I mean, we may not have hours here, but we have some time. So, I get again, we kind of went through this already. And anyone out there curious, go check out our first episode with Martin to hear about his early love of X-Men. But I mean, how did you feel getting that call? Like I said, we kind of talked about the decision making of it, but putting the decision aside, like when it was like, oh yeah, I'm doing Wolverine, like you had to throw yourself a party, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, um, I don't know. When I was a kid, I will watch. I've told you before that I didn't have many Marvel titles available where I live. Um, so I will read more DC stuff because that's what I had around basically. But I was aware, of course, of Spider-Man and the X-Men and stuff. And when Captain America, many classic Marvel characters. But when when the original X-Men series, like TV series, came out, it was like it blew. It was a I don't know. It like it changed the the at least the animated landscape. I mean, it was huge. Especially I've always been like I don't know how to call it, like mm, a philosophical type of person. I always loved like philosophy and social issues and just thinking about stuff, right? So when X-Men came out, the animated series, because again I didn't have I was able to buy like a couple of issues when I was a kid, but I didn't. I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't continue reading the stories because I haven't. I didn't have them. There were no internet. There was nothing.
Yeah.
It was like no slim pickings will be like an understatement. It was like
Yeah.
nothing. You had nothing available
It was a
back
void.
then. But when the animated series came out, I was like blown away by how mature it was, and all the all the themes. I mean, even I was like 11 years old when I watched it, but even back then I would be able to pick up stuff, not as deep as you will as an adult, but you saw that it wasn't a simple a kids TV show. It was way bigger than that. um and when I saw Wolverine, was like, I mean, he's like the coolest.
Yeah.
He and Gambit were for me like, I mean, they were like awesome,
Those
like
dudes.
the definition of awesome,
Yeah.
um and Rogue too. And that's funny because back then you wouldn't really be like fan of female characters, you would gravitate to, you were taught that you were supposed to like
Yeah.
male characters. And I remember thinking like, man, Rogue is incredible,
Rogue's badass, dude.
yeah, like super badass. So I mean, it was like mind blowing, like
Yeah.
absolutely. So and over the years, just I kept drawing and always thinking about, man, how cool it will be to someday be able to draw the X-Men, right? And Wolverine in particular.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
again, no diss to any of the other X-Men. We love them all, but
yeah,
there's no denying that
yeah. I mean,
Wolverine has taken the tops, like, front and center of the X-Men, especially in the last, like, decade. Like,
yeah,
anything
yeah,
X-Men has Wolverine front and center.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I also, you know, it's a character I particularly can relate to many the light parts and the dark parts of Wolverine I can actually relate. Um, so he's a very interesting and complex character, even though sometimes we think of him just like a really angry dude,
Mhm.
with a very, like, short temper, but he's way more than that.
Yeah.
So the idea of exploring that, and going back to basics, and going back to, the raw and wild aspect of the Canadian, wilderness, and how it reflects, um, it's a reflection of what Wolverine is as a person. I think it's like very, very interesting. I've always been a huge fan of First Blood. Like the first
Oh,
Rambo
dude. Yeah,
movie.
that's one of my favorite movies.
I watched it. I was like way too young to watch it, but I did.
Same.
And uh, I've never been a fan of the rest of the Rambo movies,
Mhm.
but that the a very troubled guy who is trying to do good, but he's been dealt a very shitty hand.
Mhm.
Life has dealt him a very, very shitty hand, and he's trying to go out his life doing the best he can, but society decided to make him a monster. The
Yeah.
society decided to make him an enemy. So, and he's a powerful guy, but he's weak. If you're powerful but your temper is weak, you are weak.
Mhm.
So trying to do um trying to do the best you can, and trying to do what's right with your power, but also with your weaknesses. I think that's very interesting. And using anger is a very intense and very helpful emotion, if you are able to to make it move to healthy places. And you really, really, really need anger in your life. We shouldn't lose anger. We should be way more angry than we are for many things that are going on or in our lives, and we are like way too calm, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So that's something to just to keep in the back burner. We sometimes we should be way more angrier than we are, and
Yeah.
sometimes we should be way calmer than we
Mhm.
are. We have a very misguided anger. So I think that's very powerful, and I think you can tell many things with those concepts and others. I have like two sides of me. The side of who enjoys like a more regular fan who likes a character, but
Mhm.
I also like stories that mean something. I
Yeah.
don't like I don't like stories of a character that are just the story of that character and that's it, and they don't mean anything on you know on a more human type. I'm not very interested on characters that have absolutely no translation. Those problems have no translation to our regular lives, you know. Um, that if those kind of stories, I mean, they are fine for what they are, but if fantasy stays in fantasy, I'm kind of out. You know, I'm not that interested. Um, so when you can actually take a character and actually say something and say it in many levels and make it enjoyable on a pure like fan type of enjoyment, but also on deeper levels, I think those work much better in my opinion. So I think you can tell a lot of stuff, a lot of stories with a character like Logan. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Absolutely beautifully said, and especially about just the character of Wolverine himself, because I think,
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of people have a kind of one-dimensional view of him, which, to be fair, a lot of of the media he's been
Yeah,
in has only shown that one dimension.
yeah, an angry dude with claws. If if you just have an angry dude with claws, you can only go so far. You know,
Yeah.
it's like okay, but what do I do with this character who has like uh, who has been turned into a menace by society, and he has like many like he's like super mysterious. We don't really know much about his origins, or you know, there are many blank spots in his story. So what do we do with that basically, no? So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that my story is going exactly that way. I'm saying that there are many elements in this story, and I don't know what's going. That's for Saladin to decide, right?
Yeah,
But
there's
I
just a
think
lot
there
of
is,
different avenues to go.
yeah, exactly. I think, but at least I think it is a very interesting character to draw and to interpret, basically.
So going off of that, those interpretations, how do you go about interpreting a character like Logan and adding in some of that depth? And again, not talking script or anything like that, just visually. How do you kind of approach that, and how is that different from Immortal Thor? Because we definitely have talked about, with Immortal Thor, adding in that kind of fantasy. And we talked about the first time how Al had a note like he should always be smiling, or like,
Yeah.
relatively. So, like, what were some of the differences, again, coming into Wolverine, and again adding in those a little bit more nuance than just angry guy with claws?
I think yeah, there are many. As you said, the one of the main tenets of Immortal Thor was to show him not too much brooding. We wanted to see him smile more and be uh, uh, to shine a little more, and not having make him not as dark as he was portrayed on previous iterations. In this case, I am trying to basically develop and explore the opposite. I want to see I want to see Logan, but not just making him angry all the time. How do I build a more round character? How do I show him? How do I show his tragic side? How do I show his sadness? What fuels his anger? What about the expressions? How can I explore his expressions, and how do I show depth through his like how do I give hints of a deeper a deeper character, basically. Not character as in a character, but his character. You know, he what he is as a person, basically. So I try to explore that and use different. I'm exploring uh, certain stylistic choices that I wasn't able to do with Thor, and I think that's great. I mean, there is much there is more like darkness and more more darkness, more sadness, and more anger, and I try to show that with lines too. So that's what I'm exploring. I'm not like fully there yet, but I'm getting closer, because it's not, you don't, if there's something I've learned through many years of drawing comics, is you're you take a character, but when you first draw that character, you are not really drawing him or her as you will in 4 or 5 issues, along the road. So the character grows with you as you grow with the story. So the more you move on, then the more issues you do, and I hope I get to do as many issues as possible. Then you start. Then it becomes like a second nature, and and you start to realize that you start to add or subtract certain details, and they work much better with that character in particular. So right now I'm getting closer to my Wolverine, but it's evolving. You don't start with, it's not your Wolverine from the first time you draw him, or the second, or the 10th maybe, but at some point it will become yours. So that's what I'm trying to do, basically. But it's very interesting, and it's huge motivation. So
Yeah.
it's
And
a
I
pleasure.
love hearing you talk about, again, the kind of progression of the character as you work on him. Something you touched on in the beginning of this interview with Immortal Thor, about how, you were in Asgard mode, like your
Yeah,
mind's in that realm, right? And
yeah.
now you're getting your mind into the Wolverine realm and Logan.
Mm.
And I mean, again, we're, going from space and Asgard and all that to Canadian wilderness, like very much more grounded, much more
Yeah.
personal kind of place and story. We talked about sense of scale with Tyrannos and Thor and all that. But so what's the sense of scale like going into Wolverine? Like how short is your Wolverine compared to the, like how are we playing with the height in this run?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, but no, it's not as challenging, but yeah, it's also, you have to um you have to adapt to drawing a short character, a
Yeah.
short king,
That's what
as I
I'm
said.
saying. With the short king like Wolverine, like
Yeah,
when he's with other characters, and this
yeah,
isn't
exactly.
spoiling. This
You're
was in the
tempted.
previews, but there's Wolf, so like how he interacts with like the animals and stuff. Like I'm sure that can
Yeah,
be challenging.
yeah, you're tempted. um when you draw comics, you are like tempted to do like an average size,
Yeah.
so when you have characters talking, they're basically, at least there is a specific mandate to do a character like very large or very small. You kind of always gravitate to having them around the same heights. So with Wolverine, yeah, I had to adapt to the fact that you want to make him shorter and stockier. Um, so yeah, it took me a few pages, and the editor has to correct me at some points, and you start to fine tune until you actually you like get in the zone, and again you get started, you start to think in terms of Wolverine. You
Yeah.
start to think in terms of how he's the star, and he's like the main focus of the story, so everything around him has to somewhat accommodate to his height, and unless you I mean, unless you want to do something funny at some point about that. But if you're like taking it like if you're doing like a straight story, you want to have him like being the focus, and you have to work with the different heights to make everything work basically naturally. But yeah, I mean, it's again
The fun
after
challenge.
yeah, like Toranos and all that, like accommodating for Logan's height is nothing.
It's
It's
easy work. Piece of
yeah,
cake.
yeah.
I'm just so excited for this Wolverine run. And hearing you talk about it is just it makes me so excited. And we're just even talking about the art aspect. There's a whole story that goes along with it too.
Yeah.
Something that I am very excited for in this run are your backgrounds. I'm super excited for you to play in the wilderness. I think that's going to
Yeah.
be like so cool. I already like, again, obviously, you do amazing with the cosmic. We had not the Beyonder, but the big face, in Immortal
Yeah.
Thor looking down, and like, Toronto, these big things. But
The demiurge.
yeah, Demiurge, that's it. Thank
Yeah.
you. But I just feel like for whatever reason, like you are gonna do so, like your woods, like the woods and the like creepiness of it. Oh, it's gonna be so good. I think again,
I've
I'm
had
like most excited for that. I think.
yeah, I've had the opportunity. There are some splash pages, like a sunrise,
Mm-hmm.
like in the mountains, and yeah, I mean
I
it's
bet that
awesome.
was fun
So
in itself,
yeah,
just doing like beautiful kind of landscapes,
yeah,
right?
you don't always get to just draw there's I mean, I enjoy everything because I
Yeah.
love drawing. So yeah, but it's always like alien looking stuff,
Mhm.
and you like space. The skies are full of nebulas
Mhm.
and moons and planets or whatever. And sometimes you get to draw like a beautiful sunrise in the mountains, and
Yeah.
the, and it's like, oh man, this is super nice. This
Yeah, I
is
was just gonna
super
say,
awesome.
like sometimes you just want to do a nice mountain range,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly. Sometimes all you want to do is a nice mountain. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, in that regard, I love my job because it's always there's always something new. There's
Mm.
always it's challenging because, as I always say, when people ask me like what's the hardest part of being a comic artist, is that you're not allowed to have comfort zones, or
Mm.
at least you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Some artists, I mean, I have them. It's impossible not to have one, but you can't say you don't get to say like, I don't know, I have a terrible time drawing children. I won't draw children. No. If the story asks you to draw children, you will have to do
Mm.
that. If you are if you I can't get cars right. Tough shit, man.
Yeah. You
You
better
will
figure
have
it
to
out.
draw cars. You have to figure out, or draw something else.
Mm.
But you are not allowed to say I am bad at certain drawings, so I won't do them. It's no, you can't. So you can take that as a nightmare, or you can take that as an opportunity to basically expand everything you can draw. It's
Mhm.
like at some point on a comic artist career, they will have drawn basically everything, like everything, buildings, houses, trees, every kind of tree, snowy backgrounds, bustling cities, cars, dogs, pets, children, women, men, skinny men. Sometimes it's hard to do a skinny man because we are so accustomed to draw him,
Like
to draw them,
big
like
beefcakes.
and you want to draw like a regular person, like maybe carrying some weight and or maybe skinny or whatever, or draw a woman who isn't like a bombshell, draw a regular woman, not like the most beautiful woman in the universe, just a regular woman, an old woman, an old man. All that is fantastic. I'm 41 years old. I've been drawing for, I don't know, like 15 years or whatever, and I wake up excited pretty much every day because I have to draw something new, and as long as I have that in me, as long as I have that it's a compulsion basically, because I started drawing when I was, I don't know, like 4, and I never stopped. And it's for you can be like super exhausted after a grueling day, but then you go, sit on a couch and turn your TV and watch a movie, and you're like, oh man, I want to draw that. I want to.
Yeah.
You see something, or even you listen to a song or whatever, but something moves inside you, and that's the beauty of art.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, that's why something like fucking AI just kills the soul, the joy, or you can't do art asking a machine like draw this for me, and you say, oh, like, look how well I did this. Like, no, you didn't. Like, you didn't go through the pain. You didn't go through the emotions. The sometimes you want to cry because something is really hard, or sometimes you are like super excited and you want to tell someone like, oh man, I'm really excited. But you don't get to feel all that if you ask something or someone to do it for you. You're not an artist if you're not developing art, and and have it like course through your brain, and so as long as I feel that connection and that that urge, that compulsion to do something, and to show, to draw, and I want to get these. Sometimes they are demons, sometimes they are angels, sometimes whatever it is that you want to get out of your brain and vomit it on a page. As long as I feel that, I'll be a happy comic artist. So yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it. Having to draw, getting to draw something. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel like, oh man, I'm a really shitty artist. I should I should open a no say, I don't know, a grocery store,
Yeah,
or
coffee shop
whatever.
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and yeah, man, I need to do something else because I suck at drawing.
Dude,
Sometimes you feel
it's
like
me
that,
every day.
and but the next day you go back, and you do it again, and for whatever reason you go back and do it again, and in that struggle, that therein lies the beauty of it. So yeah,
It's all about the struggle, baby. And
it's all
I
about the
just
struggle.
love
Yeah.
I love your outlook on art and creativity so much. We've talked about it in our previous interviews, but just the way that you look at the creative process, I think is just so important. And like you say, pushing your limits, testing your limits, getting out of your comfort zone. I mean, while I am not an artist, I've found just in life, that's
Yeah,
how you progress. Like that's how
yeah.
you
I mean,
get to
it,
wherever
it,
you
it's,
want to go.
it
You
it
have to
doesn't
get
matter.
out of your comfort zone.
I cook, I bake, I do many things, and I've been baking for I don't know, like 6 years or something like that, 7 years, and I bake like consistently, like every week I'm
Mhm.
baking something. I'm a huge like a bread nerd and all the
Oh,
stuff,
dude, we might have to have
and
some bread convos some of these
oh
days.
yeah. I mean, I have so much. Every once in a while, I'll post something on Instagram. You can go check it out.
Oh, I'm about to go check right
And
now. I love cooking and all
I
that.
have like there's always someone in Marvel and stuff. They're always like, "Oh man, we so want to try your breads, man!"
We got to
so
share some
someday
recipes, my friend.
yeah, someday I'll go to the Marvel office with like a huge basket of
Just the
yeah,
huge thing of bread.
but I have struggled. I think like the best the stronger the best compliment that I could give to myself. Nothing comes easy for me.
Mhm.
When someone tells me like, "Oh man, that's all talent," like nothing has ever come easy for me. Everything is a struggle for me.
Mhm.
Like every you get better over time. Of course you do. But I'm not. I am as far as you could possibly go from a prodigy. I'm like everything I do and everything I've done. Um, I've struggled. I've failed after fail after fail. But I keep going. I keep going. If I every time I fail, there is something I get a kernel of truth and a kernel of something I love, and you're like, okay, this thing I did, maybe it's a bread that came like completely flat and tough, and
Mhm.
but whatever you do, but you did it and you failed and you learned, and the next time maybe you fail again, but there are you will always make new mistakes, you know.
Mhm.
If you're always making the same mistakes, you're not learning. You're not paying attention. You're
Mhm.
not learning anything. But if you're making new mistakes, it's like that's amazing, because at some point you will run out of mistakes,
Mhm.
and you will actually start getting good at whatever you do. That's whatever you do. Carpentry, baking, drawing, doing podcasts, writing, whatever you do. At some point, if you pay attention, you will run out of mistakes, and actually you will actually start getting good at what you do. So I always keep going, like
Mhm.
always keep going. And if I decide like I am not really enjoying this thing I'm trying, I just leave it
Mhm.
as that, because if I failed and I got like nothing out of it, maybe it's not for me, you
Mhm.
know. So I don't know, that comes like organically. Sometimes I say, okay, I don't see myself progressing in this, or trying again, so I'm out. But sometimes I'm like, okay, I sucked, but I want to try again, so
Mhm.
I go again, again and again and again and again, and I eventually get decent or good, or whatever. So,
Yeah, I'd say a
but
little
it's
better
never
than good. And
well.
you sell yourself
That's for
short.
you. That's for you to
That's
say,
for
and
me to say. Well, I'll say
I
it.
appreciate it. Well, yeah. but yeah, I mean, I've never in my life I've done something and I just nailed it from the get go,
Mm.
and I'm like, okay, I mastered I mastered this like in my first try.
Yeah.
No, never, never. I
Mm.
am not that talented. I'm not that talented. I'm just stubborn. Sometimes you
Yeah.
have to be way more stubborn than you are talented. So yeah,
Well, here's to the mistakes, my friend. And
yeah,
I just,
exactly.
I love that so much because I think that just rings so true to every aspect. Again, even if you're not an artist, any aspect of your life.
Yeah,
And I also think
absolutely.
it's just super important for people to hear because I think that there's a lot of people out there, especially with a field like art or being an artist, who think that it is just like, oh, well, I've never been a good drawer or I've never been able to draw. Like I
Mm,
wasn't born with that talent, so I just can't do it. But
mm.
there are pretty much everybody. I mean, there are some freak cases out there who's, people
Yeah,
are just
yeah.
freaky good. But for the most part, most people, this happens from, like you said, trial, error, and
Mm.
failing. But keep getting up and keep going. And
Yeah,
I just think that's so important for everyone to hear, especially people that are, interested in pursuing a kind of creative
yeah,
career.
it's easy. Everything can be like a double-edged sword in a way. For example, when I'm down, when I'm like doubting my abilities and doubting my quality, etc. I don't know. I go into Instagram and I get bombarded by people that I perceive as way more talented than me,
Mhm.
uh, doing things that apparently are like effortless, and I'm like, man, they are doing amazing stuff, and I suck, man, and it's it's terrible. Like
Mhm.
I'm terrible. Like I suck at this. But when I'm feeling okay with myself and feeling fine with my art and whatever, I go into Instagram and I see them and I get inspired. I
Mhm.
don't get bogged down. I get inspired. So if you're doubting, and you can see that reflected basically in society with everything. Like
Mhm.
people, I don't know, if you lift weight, you see this perfectly, like chiseled, incredible looking people. They look like Olympians in Instagram, and you're like, man, I will never be like them. So you can be depressed, or you can be inspired. It depends on how you're feeling with yourself, and you should manage how much you are exposed to this double-edged
Mhm.
sword. And if you're an artist, and if you are starting and you're struggling, it can be like very frustrating, and discouraging, just looking at amazing people do amazing stuff. But you have to think, first of all, like every one of us are on their own path to
Mhm.
call it success. Success in terms of whatever you think it's success. I'm not saying monetary
Mhm.
success. I'm just saying, like, achieving a type of quality on an activity that you pursue. That's success for me. um so all I can say to those artists is just keep going, keep going. Sometimes I don't know, like you're like 17 years old and you're comparing yourself with a 50-year-old artist who has worked for the last 25 years,
Mhm.
consistently, like every day. You have no idea the impact that drawing every day has on your abilities. You have no idea. And drawing to work, like, you're not allowed. You might take a day off every once in a while, but you don't get too many of those.
Mhm.
It's like some people say that, okay, like you're on your own boss, like you don't have to. You're always fucked, man. You're
Mhm.
like always fucked. You're always running. Uh, when you work on deadline based goals, you're always running against the clock. You're always, and
Yeah.
that fills you with anxiety, and you have to manage that too. And you have to do it every day, every day, every day. They expect a page for me. They expect a page for me. They expect and okay, one day I wasn't able to send one. Okay, I have to see how then I can manage to deliver two pages on one day. If I
Mhm.
couldn't do one on one day, I have to do,
Pages got to
uh,
get turned in regardless.
yeah, you have
Mhm.
to work with average. As I always say, if a page takes, I don't know, 16 hours for you to do, then you have to do 2 and 4.
Mhm.
And you basically, you have to try, uh, um, and you will be delayed from time to time. Like I have to deal with delays pretty much every day, every month. Or maybe you travel to a convention and go back and come back, I don't know, a week after, and you are delayed a week, and you have to see what you do. And then you all those things have happened to me. Or you get sick and you lose like 2 days or 3 days of work. So it's a constant struggle, but it's also a constant evolution, because
Mhm.
you're facing so many challenges every day to deliver your work, that even if you don't think about it, even if you don't really, if you don't try, you are always getting a little, just a little better
Mhm.
every day. So you know how it is, like a very small progression every day, it becomes huge over the course of, I don't know, a year or two or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, every
that's
step forward is a step
yeah,
forward. And like you
every
said,
step counts. Yeah,
yep, and all the
absolutely.
mistakes and the failures, it all just, it all works to get you better, whether it's
Yeah,
creative field or, whatever you're doing in your life,
yeah,
which again, I think it's just such a great perspective to have. And I really do, I know that I say this all the time and you laugh it off, but it really does translate into the work. And I think all of the things that you talk about and your outlook on the work and what the work means, it all translates into it, and why you are such a fantastic artist and why so
thank
many people love your art. Fortunately, we are just talking about the clock is always ticking and there's
yeah,
always deadlines. So I know
yeah.
that you're busy and you got to get out of here to give us some more Wolverine content. So the Wolverine, that's going to be written by Saladin Ahmed, and he's currently writing Daredevil, and so
Yeah,
he's going to be hopping on writing for Wolverine, and that is going to be coming this September. So everyone watching and listening to this, be sure to add it to your pull list. Make sure to go pick it up in September. And my friend Martin, I just cannot thank you enough for being here with me
no,
today
thanks,
and joining me
it's
and
a pleasure.
talking about it. And before we get out of here, as always, I want to throw it off to you. Obviously, we have Wolverine. Like I said, that's going to be in September. Just another reminder for y'all. But is there anything else you're working on? I mean, obviously we can't talk.
No.
Is there any secret projects or strictly Wolverine
No,
right
it's
now?
it's. I mean, it's consuming between. I have to. I work on Wolverine on the interiors. I also do the covers, which I didn't do, for example,
Ooh,
for Immortal Thor, because it
yeah.
was Alex Ross's job. So I'm doing the covers, and I'm also doing the Stormbreakers variants every month. So
Mhm.
it's like all
You
day,
are
every day.
busy.
Like,
Which, speaking of,
I
I gotta
don't.
say really quickly, that Moon Knight one that you did was fantastic.
Thank you.
I absolutely loved that. I forgot to mention that
I
earlier.
have I have a couple of, be on the lookout for a couple of, one variant, one Stormbreaker variant, and one for a Spider-Man universe, I would say. So yeah, be on the lookout because those are about to be released like any day now.
Okay,
So
well, hopefully, maybe by the time this
it-
releases.
those are really exciting too because you always get to draw uh, at least for one or two images a month. You get to do something completely different
Mhm.
from what you're doing. You know, you're drawing Wolverine, and an email comes and they want, I don't know, like I don't know, like a, I don't know, like a Moon Knight doing something,
Say,
or
trying to think of
Spider-Man
one that you
doing
haven't
something,
done.
or yeah, or a Ghost Riders doing whatever, and you're like, okay, that's really good because with the variants I've drawn like pretty much, and not every Marvel character because there are, I don't know, hundreds,
Millions.
but the most notorious ones, I think I've drawn pretty much all of them. So that's really exciting too.
Oh,
But that basically consumes my whole month.
mhm.
So no, I am someday I will. I have had talks with writers of doing something independently in the future. So that's coming at some point. Maybe when I'm off my exclusivity with Marvel,
Mhm.
at some point I might do something on the independent side, or maybe a Kickstarter. I don't know I don't know the format yet,
Mhm.
but yeah, something will come in the future. So yeah, it's many exciting stuff. Just I just need to have the time to work in all that
Yeah, just find
before
the
I
time
die,
to do it
basically.
all.
I
Well,
have
dude.
I have a finite time, so, and an infinite ideas, set of ideas. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Again, though, a good problem to find yourself in because you are booked and busy, my friend. And again,
yeah.
I just could not be more happy for you. And especially coming on to this new title, it's just so exciting, both as a fan of your work and just a fan of the X-Men as well. And again, I just can't thank you enough for gracing us with your time to be able to kind of put Immortal Thor to bed and again, kind of look to greener pastures for this new adventure. So, everyone out there watching and listening to this, again, make sure to pick up Wolverine this September and also be on the lookout for all of Martin's exclusive variant covers that are going to be coming because we know that they're going to be fantastic. And if you enjoyed watching and listening to this video, please consider giving us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Also, head on over to bcwsupplies.com and use code Sons of Mjolnir to get 10% off all your bags, boards, anything you need to collect. We have you covered. Once again, that code is Sons of Mjolnir. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope your stacks are fat. We will see y'all next time.
I can do this all day.